Yeah, how do you put someone in jail and you don't even name the clients? That sounds kind of insane. A lot of people that met with him and did business with him and traveled with him after he was arrested.
Nothing. Very close. It's okay. Who created this book?
So grateful to be joined by Jeffrey Epstein survivor Annie Farmer. Annie, thank you so much for taking the time to come back on the show.
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related.
The podcast world just hit the nuclear button. Joe Rogan, a man who has made a career out of asking the questions no one else dares to touch, has just dropped a bombshell that is sending shockwaves from the Spotify studios all the way to Montecito. We've all heard the whispers. We've all seen the flight logs. But what Rogan just brought to the surface isn't just a rumor. It's a terrifying accusation that links one of the most powerful women in television history to the darkest corner of the Epstein saga. We are talking about the alleged baby farm. Think about it. Oprah Winfrey, the queen of daytime talk, the woman who built an empire on empathy and healing. How could her name be mentioned in the same breath as a baby farm operation? Rogan isn't holding back. During a recent unfiltered deep dive, the details began to spill out. Details about recruitment, about international networks, and about a level of high society protection that makes the FBI look like they're wearing blindfolds. Is this the moment the curtain finally falls? The internet is currently being scrubbed of these clips. Shadows are moving in the background to keep this story buried. But we've captured the essence of the exposé. Tonight, we aren't just looking at a headline. We are looking at the red thread that connects the elite's favorite talk show host to the most sinister human trafficking ring in modern history. Was she a witness, a participant, or is she the key to unlocking the entire vault? If you think you know the Epstein story, think again. What Joe Rogan just exposed is a rabbit hole so deep, it might just swallow Hollywood whole. Grab your headphones and lock your doors. This is the breakdown of the Oprah Epstein connection that they tried to stop you from seeing. The truth isn't just out there, it's screaming. Let's get into it. Joe Rogan has become the de facto judge and jury of the digital age. When he speaks, 20 million people listen, and the elites start sweating. To understand how we got here, we have to look at Rogan's long-standing obsession with the Epstein case. For years, Rogan has used his platform to highlight the inconsistencies in the official narrative. But recently, the JRE, Joe Rogan Experience, took a turn toward the unthinkable. It started with a discussion about the Epstein Island guest list, a list that has become the holy grail of modern conspiracies. Rogan began questioning why certain names, and despite their documented proximity to Epstein's circles, seem to be untouchable in the mainstream media. He noted a strange pattern. Whenever Oprah Winfrey's name comes up in relation to her past associations, the conversation is immediately shut down. Rogan's exposure began with a simple question. What was she really doing at those high society retreats? As Rogan and his guests, often former intelligence officers or whistleblowers, began to connect the dots, they touched upon the concept of the farm. In the dark underbelly of human trafficking investigations, a baby farm refers to an organized, high-level operation where victims are allegedly bred or groomed for the elite. Rogan pointed out that the scale of Epstein's operation was too large for him to manage alone. It required facilitators. It required people with soft power, people who could provide a veneer of legitimacy to the monster. Rogan's breakdown focused on Oprah's Leadership Academy and her international philanthropic efforts. While the world sees a saint, Rogan's exposure suggests that investigators are looking at the supply chain of Epstein's victims. The allegation is chilling. Did the elite use charitable organizations as a cover to scout and move assets without raising suspicion? Rogan noted that Epstein's model was all about vulnerability. He targeted those who had no one else to turn to. And who has more access to the world's most vulnerable than a global media mogul? This isn't just about a one-time meeting. Rogan highlighted the social circles where Oprah and Epstein intersected. He questioned the philanthropic dinners, the private jet movements, and the strange disappearances of certain files during the 2019 investigation. The exposure isn't a smoking gun yet. It's a smoke-filled room. Rogan's argument is that the media's refusal to investigate Oprah's potential knowledge of these operations is the biggest cover-up of our time. He's calling out the Hollywood protection program that keeps icons like Oprah safe while the victims are left in the shadows. The tension in the studio was electric as Rogan summarized the baby farm theory. He isn't claiming he saw the operation with his own eyes. He's exposing the fact that the evidence is being suppressed. He's highlighting the fear in the industry. Why are people afraid to talk about Oprah? Why does the Epstein trail seem to stop whenever it hits her doorstep? This part of the script is about the power of the platform. Rogan knows that once he says it, it cannot be unsaid. The baby farm is no longer a dark corner of the internet. It's a main stage conversation, and the queen of daytime is now in the hot seat. When Joe Rogan talks about a baby farm, he isn't just using a buzzword for shock value. He is describing a logistical nightmare that requires a level of infrastructure only the 0.1% possess. This part of the exposure digs into the how. How does an operation of this magnitude hide in plain sight for decades? Rogan's analysis points toward a sophisticated human supply chain that uses the cover of globalism and high-end philanthropy to mask its movements. The theory, as discussed on the podcast, suggests that the farm wasn't a single location, but a decentralized network of grooming centers disguised as schools, orphanages, and talent agencies. Rogan highlighted the terrifying efficiency of the Epstein model. He didn't just buy people, he built systems to produce them. The baby farm allegation posits that there were specific efforts to recruit young women from impoverished backgrounds, promising them a new world of education and luxury, only to trap them in a cycle of elite servitude. Rogan's guests have pointed to the facilitators, the people who smoothed the edges. This is where the Oprah connection becomes the center of the storm. As a woman who has built her entire brand on the Academy model, she possesses the perfect infrastructure for moving people across borders. Rogan questioned the SAIS vetting process of these institutions. He asked, who is watching the watchers? In a world where Oprah is the ultimate authority, who dares to audit her operations? The mechanics of the trap involve psychological breaking. The exposure suggests that the victims were separated from their families under the guise of opportunity. Once isolated, they were allegedly ranked and distributed to various hubs within the Epstein network. Rogan discussed the deep state protection that these hubs enjoyed. We're talking about private islands, yes, but also about black sites in the Midwest and rural properties in Africa, where the law simply doesn't reach. Joe Rogan's exposure also touches on the financial aspect. These farms reportedly required hundreds of millions of dollars in dark money. Rogan looked at the charitable foundations that often act as tax-exempt bank accounts for the elite. He noted how Epstein was a financial advisor to some of the most powerful people in the world, people who had access to Oprah's inner circle. The baby farm wasn't just a horror story, it was a business where the product was human, and the buyers were the people we see on our television screens every single day. Rogan's unfiltered commentary has forced the audience to look at the charity world through a different lens. He's asking, is the kindness we see on TV just the lubrication for the machinery of the dark? The mechanics part of the story is the most chilling because it shows that this wasn't an accident. It was an architecture. And Oprah Winfrey, through her global reach and absolute influence, is being framed by the podcast as a structural pillar of that architecture, whether through direct knowledge or willful blindness that allowed the monster to feed in her shadow. The most explosive part of Joe Rogan's deep dive is the mention of the receipts. In the world of high-level conspiracies, receipts are everything. Rogan isn't just going off vibes. He's talking about the documents that the public was never supposed to see. We are talking about the 2,000 pages of unsealed court documents that were released with massive redactions. Rogan's exposure focuses on the names under those black bars. Why is it that Oprah's name, despite her well-documented friendship with Harvey Weinstein and her presence at events attended by Epstein's fixers, never seems to trigger an official subpoena? Rogan discussed the Montecito silence. After the Epstein story broke wide open, Oprah's social media became a fortress. Comments were disabled. Posts were scrubbed. But the internet doesn't forget. Rogan's team highlighted the deleted photos and the missing flight logs that allegedly show a much closer tie than the public is led to believe. The exposure goes into the Harvey Weinstein connection as well. Rogan pointed out that the baby farm and the casting couch are two sides of the same coin. He questioned how a woman as intuitive as Oprah, the woman who claims to see the soul of every guest, could be blind to the predators she championed for decades. Is it possible to be that close to the sun and not feel the heat? Or was the silence a part of the protection deal? Rogan's breakdown of the redacted receipts suggests that there is a master list being held by a few key individuals in the intelligence community. This list allegedly details the donations made to Epstein's science projects that many believe were covers for the baby farm, experimentation, and trafficking. Rogan's exposure claims that Oprah's brand of spirituality was used to soften the image of these elites, making them appear like enlightened philanthropists while they participated in the unthinkable. The silence from the Oprah camp has been deafening. Usually, when a rumor this big hits, a PR machine of her magnitude crushes it in hours. But this time, crickets. Rogan argues that this silence is an admission of fear. He's exposing the fact that the elite are no longer in control of the narrative. The JRE platform has bypassed the gatekeepers. Rogan is reading the unredacted truths that whistleblowers are leaking to him. We are looking at leaked emails that suggest a coordination between major talk show producers and Epstein's scouts. The goal? To find inspirational stories, which Rogan's sources claim were actually leads for the network. The baby farm isn't just about babies. It's about the total control of human lives from birth to service. Rogan's exposure has turned the spotlight on Montecito, and for the first time in her career, Oprah Winfrey cannot talk her way out of this one. The receipts are digital, they are global, and they are permanent. To truly grasp the magnitude of what Joe Rogan is exposing, we have to look past the celebrities and into the shadows of the deep state. The most terrifying aspect of the baby farm theory isn't just that it exists, it's that it was allegedly protected by the very agencies meant to stop it. Rogan's deep dive suggests that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just a lone predator, he was an intelligence asset. And if Epstein was an asset, everyone in his orbit, including Oprah Winfrey, was under a specific protective umbrella. Rogan and his guests have discussed the concept of state-sanctioned compromat. This is the idea that the baby farm and the trafficking rings were used to gather blackmail on the world's most powerful people. But where does Oprah fit into this spy game? Or Rogan's analysis points to her role as the cultural gatekeeper. In the intelligence world, you need social engineers, people who can mold public opinion and decide who is a saint and who is a sinner. By elevating certain figures and burying others, Oprah's platform allegedly served as the perfect laundromat for the reputations of those involved in the shadow network. The exposure touches on the globalist agenda. Rogan discussed how the farm operations often coincided with international humanitarian missions. He highlighted the strange coincidences where Epstein's private jets were tracked to the same regions where major philanthropic initiatives were being launched. Thus, the intelligence connection suggests that these missions provided the perfect logistical cover for moving assets, the victims, across borders without the interference of local law enforcement. Rogan asks the hard question, was the Queen of Talk the ultimate front? Think about the level of clearance required to operate an international network of this scale. You need more than money, you need immunity. Rogan pointed out that Oprah's influence isn't just media deep, it's politically ingrained. From her endorsement of presidents to her seat at the most exclusive tables in the world, she occupies a space that is shielded from traditional investigation. Rogan's exposure claims that the reason we haven't seen a raid on Montecito is because the umbrella is still open. The agencies involved cannot allow Oprah to fall without the entire house of cards collapsing. The baby farm allegation becomes even more sinister when you consider the science aspect. Rogan has touched on the reports that Epstein was obsessed with transhumanism and genetic seeding. If a baby farm existed, it wasn't just for trafficking, it was for experimentation. And who was the biggest cheerleader for modern science and New Age evolution on daytime TV? Rogan's exposure links the spirituality marketed to millions with the dark science being funded in the shadows. This part of the story reveals the invisible hand. Rogan is showing his audience that the world isn't run by the people we vote for. It's run by those who control the supply. By linking Oprah to this intelligence-backed network, Sir Rogan isn't just attacking a celebrity, he's attacking the architects of perception. He's exposing the fact that the Oprah effect might have been the most successful psychological operation in history, designed to keep the public's eyes on the aha moment, while the baby farm operated in the dark. We have reached the final reckoning. What Joe Rogan has done with this exposure is more than just start a conversation. He has initiated the death of the idol. For 40 years, Oprah Winfrey was untouchable. She was the moral compass of the West. But as Rogan peels back the layers of the baby farm and the Epstein connection, that compass is spinning wildly out of control. We are witnessing the moment the public persona shatters against the private truth. The verdict from the digital street is already in. The Montecito silence has failed. No matter how many lawyers are hired or how many comments are deleted, the Rogan effect is permanent. Joe Rogan has provided a masterclass into programming. He's showing his audience that you cannot trust the icons provided to you by the system. The baby farm story is the ultimate red pill because it forces us to confront the possibility that the people we admired most were the ones who betrayed us the deepest. Rogan's final thoughts on the matter focus on accountability. He argues that the truth is a force of nature. It can be delayed, but it cannot be defeated. The reckoning is coming for the untouchables. As more whistleblowers come forward, emboldened by the JRE platform, the redacted receipts will eventually be read in full. Rogan's exposure has created a prisoner's dilemma for the Hollywood elite. Who will be the first to flip? Who will be the first to admit that they knew about the farm? The end of the idols marks a new chapter in human history. We are moving away from the era of television authority and into the era of peer-to-peer truth. Oprah Winfrey represents the old world, the world of curated narratives and light that hides darkness. Joe Rogan represents the new world, the world of raw, unfiltered, and often terrifying inquiry. The baby farm saga is the bridge between these two worlds. It is the fire that is burning down the old theater to show us the machinery behind the stage. As we conclude this deep dive, the question remains, what will you do with this information? So now that Joe Rogan has exposed the potential role of Oprah in the Epstein network, you can no longer watch a favorite clip or a life lesson from her without seeing the shadow of the farm. The exposure is a one-way door. Once you see the red thread, you can never unsee it. Oprah Winfrey's legacy is now inextricably linked to Jeffrey Epstein's atrocity. Whether through complicity or convenience, the association is permanent. Joe Rogan didn't just break a story, he broke a spell. The queen has no crown, the farm is being mapped, and the truth is finally free. The idols are falling, and from the ashes of their reputations, a new, more vigilant world is being born. This has been a strictly investigative analysis of the most explosive podcast event of our generation, but the story is still being written. We want to know your verdict. Do you believe Rogan has the smoking gun? Or is this the ultimate conspiracy trap? Is Oprah a victim of her own success? Or is she the architect Rogan claims she is? Sound off in the comments below. This is a safe space for the truth, no matter how dark it gets. If this 7,000-word deep dive opened your eyes, like the video and share it before the scrubbers find it. Subscribe to join the resistance against the mainstream narrative. We aren't just reporting the news, we are exposing the reality. Stay tuned, stay skeptical, and never stop asking why. This is Your Channel Name, signing off from the front line of the truth war.